All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's shiur should be le'ilu nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka bas Gavriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dov HaKohen, and l'ruschus l'refu shalema b'karov Meshalom ben Sarah Rachel, Miriam bas Sarah, and Yair Yeshia ben Chaya Atara. Okay. Today, we are on page 230 in the Art Scroll, for those who are following along. And today we're going on to the second area of distinction that we spoke about. There are 7 areas of distinctions that a person who has Bitachon, how they fear in the world, how they get through their day, versus someone who lacks Bitachon today. And today, we're going to talk about a very, very important topic. And Shaar Habitachon calls it peace of mind, but in reality, this is the concept behind our anxiety that we have. And this is a big piece that I want you guys to really internalize, because this is going to help a lot with people who suffer with anxiety, the unknown, the things that they can't understand. And the peace of mind, the anxiety piece that you're going to overcome is the important subject of today. V'hasheni. And so, sorry. The second difference between a person who has Bitachon and one who lacks Bitachon is like this. That a person who has Bitachon every single day, he trusts in Hashem, he has peace of mind in any situation because he is satisfied with what he has. A person with Bitachon understands that everything is done for a reason. Everything is done out of love and kindness from Hashem towards him. Everything is for his good in his playbook. And therefore, regardless of how his life is, he's happy with it. So long that he's doing his ishtadlus, he's very, very happy with what it is. And his heart is at ease regarding any decrees that Hashem may ordain for him in the future. Anything that happens to him, he's fine with it because he understands that that's for his benefit. For he knows that Hashem will arrange those decrees for his benefit in both this world, for material matters, and for Olam Haba, and when the time comes for him to go up to Shemayim. And so he has no reason to worry about any potential tragedies that might befall him. He says even in the time of danger, he's very at peace with himself because he understands that as long as he's doing his ishtadlus, everything else is not up to him. It's not in his hands to do so. His ishtadlus is what he's required to do. The outcome is not up to him. And so having this mindset is important, and it helps with the anxiety that we might have on a day-to-day basis when it comes to fulfilling our worldly necessities. Now, there's a very famous story with the Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer, when he got married to his first wife, he had a brother-in-law. His brother-in-law's name was Reb Hirsch. Reb Hirsch had a business and he was successful. And Reb Hirsch promised the Chassam Sofer, who was at that point, he wasn't yet the Chassam Sofer, he was Reb Moshe Sofer. It was Moshe Sofer. And he promised that he's going to support him. So long he can sit and learn, he's going to support him. And for 7 years, Reb Hirsch, the brother-in-law of the Chassam Sofer, before he was the Chassam Sofer, supported him. One Friday night, the Chassam Sofer noticed that his wife was wearing her weekday kerchief. And he looked at her and he said, what's going on? Where is your Shabbos kerchief? The one you have beautiful gold adornments on them. Where is it? And so she broke down and she said, I can't keep it from you. She says, my brother, Reb Hirsch, he lost his parnasa. And I was forced to sell my Shabbos kerchief so that we could buy wine for Shabbos. At that moment, the Moshe Sofer, the Chassam Sofer, he declares, he says, no, I cannot put this burden on my brother-in-law, and I'm going out to find a job. And at first, the Chassam Sofer didn't want to find a job that revolved in a rabbinic position. He didn't want to be a rabbi of anything. He just liked to look for some regular jobs. And ultimately, he failed. And at the end of the day, he wound up taking up a position in the city of Dresnitz, and he became the Chassam Sofer from there. Soon after he became the Rav in Dresnitz, his brother-in-law, his business came back too, and he started making money again. And Chassam Sofer said something very important. He said, even through tragedy, Hashem needed me to become the Rav of Dresnitz. Because without that, what would have happened? There would never have been the Chasam Sofer. We see this. We see that the only way we have the Chasam Sofer that we know today is only because he took up a position as a Rav in Dresnitz. But had his brother-in-law not had a tragedy in his business, had his brother-in-law not lost his livelihood, had he not stopped supporting his brother-in-law, Reb Moshe Sofer, there would never have been the Chasam Sofer. It would have been Moshe Sofer. And I'm sorry for saying that without Reb, but that's what would have happened. In order for Hashem to make sure that we have the Chasam Sofer, that we have this huge tzaddik that we know of today, the only way that was done is because his brother-in-law lost his livelihood for a short period, forcing him to take up a job as a Rav in Dresnitz, and therefore turning into becoming the Rav and the Chasam Sofer that we know today. And that is a story that we're trying to show that even through tragedy, sometimes it might not look so hopeful at the beginning. We don't see the positive in them at the beginning. We don't see the outcome. But later on, many times, hopefully we can see that positive outcome. And this is the story from the Chasam Sofer. And he goes further to say, it says, by this person who has this positive mindset, it says, David HaMelech says, for God alone wait silently, O my soul, because of him is my hope. The point of it, he's praying from that pasuk. He says in the previous pasuk, he says, he relates to his enemies constantly plot against him. And in this pasuk, he says, I'm at peace. I'm at peace because whatever Hashem has in store, I'm fine with it. And that's going to happen anyway. And as for the one who does not trust in Hashem, and now we're talking about the person who lacks Bitachon today, how does that person go through his life? How does that person deal with day-to-day challenges? This kind of person who lacks Bitachon is constantly in pain. He's constantly worried, always worried about his future. Why? The grief and the heartache never leave him. Not in the good times and not in the bad times. When he's making money, when things are good, when he's healthy, he's still worried about his future. And when it comes to bad times, he's also worried because it's bad times. During good times, he has heartache. Why? Because he's discontent with his situation. A person who doesn't have Bitachon and puts all his reward in this world in his own hands, he thinks that he's in control. Every time he does a good deal and he makes more money, he thinks to himself, you know what, I could have worked hard, I would have made even more money. So even when he's going up and he's making it, he's doing well, he thinks that his livelihood is in his own hands, and therefore he's never content. Right? We have a famous pasuk that says, the one who has 100 wants 200. So that person who lacks Bitachon always wants more. He's never content with it. And his constant aspiration to increase his wealth and to amass to his possessions is causing him constant worry and anguish. And during bad times, he's at heartache. Why? Because he's disgusted with his situation. He's disgusted that he doesn't have. He's disgusted that he's not healthy. He's disgusted he doesn't have money to put food on the table. Sin is contrary to his desire and his conflict with his nature of personality. And this is what Shlomo HaMelech says. Kol yemei ani royim v'toiv lev mishteh tamid. All the days of a poor man are bad, but a good-hearted person is at a perpetual feast. What does this mean? All the days of a poor man, it's the person's mind. A person's mind can be poor, either in lack of Bitachon, or he's poor because he considers himself poor. Because he always wants more than what he has, because he thinks everything is in his hands. When you lack Bitachon, you're always poor. Because even if you have more and more, you still think you should be earning more and more. You still think if you should work harder, if you work more hours, you put in more effort, you would do more, you would do better. And the proof is that when you work harder, things happen, right? So that lack of Bitachon causes that. But the perpetual feast that he talks about, a good-hearted person is at a perpetual feast. Shlomo HaMelech says, what is that? The person who's content. The person who has Bitachon. No matter what his life goes, what he goes through in his life, he's at a perpetual feast because he's always happy. He's always eating because this is what he's happy with. He's happy with what Hashem gives him. On the contrary, the person who lacks Bitachon is never full. He's always hungry. He's never content because he always needs more. And he always feels that if he has done more, if he does more, he will earn more. And when he does, he has this proof. He shows himself, you see, I worked extra hours last week, I earned more money, I closed another deal. He's foolish. He doesn't realize that everything is up to Hashem. When you have Bitachon, this chapter, second part, what teaches us, the second distinction, the anxiety that we have is solely because we lack Bitachon. When you have Bitachon and you do your hishtadlus, you feel you're doing proper hishtadlus. Not that you're waking up at 10 o'clock and you're a bum. That's not proper hishtadlus. Now, if you get paid to do that, I understand it's proper hishtadlus. But most of us don't. And therefore, you will be required, according to what we learned in the introduction, we learned, as long as you put forth your hishtadlus that you're supposed to, don't overdo it because that's against Bitachon as well. But when you feel you're putting in your proper hishtadlus, your anxiety should be gone. Because at that point, you did your hishtadlus, you have your Bitachon, the outcome is up to Hashem no matter what. And therefore, the anxiety only comes from the things that we feel that we're in control of. When we feel we're in control of something and it's not working out the way we're supposed to happen, the way we think it's supposed to happen, that's where the anxiety kicks in. All your anxiety is gone once you realize that it's not even up to you. You did your part. God has the rest of it in hand. He's supposed to do everything. Hashem is responsible for the outcome. You're just responsible for the little bit of work from your 9 to 5. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all here today, and I love you all.